play from start? All right. Okay. So I can see I've got a little window over here with everybody. I'm sharing it. Uh, we can talk at the end of this. I'll go through it fast, maybe not fast, and then we can talk with each other because really this is kind of discipline specific, situation specific. You would have to be working with somebody that's actually doing the writing to make this all work out really good. So let's just get started. Come on. All right. You're not going to go for me? Okay. I'm sure. Ah, there it goes. Sorry, I haven't really been the presenter at this. I would generally do this in person, even though I teach distance, but we'll work through it. So kind of hang with me. So why should you listen to me? This kind of talking head in your screen. Well, I'm Frances Churchill Johnson, and I have a PhD from Texas Tech. I got it in 2014 in technical communication and rhetoric. And my dissertation was on the very exciting subject of agency in the methods section of IMRAD formatted articles. Did a longitudinal study, looked at 60 years of primary research and came up with some conclusions that are really kind of fascinating if you want to talk about it sometime before you go to sleep. I've been teaching at the school since 2003. I design courses, freshman courses for people who want to be declared science majors. I've done I teach technical communication courses. I have a course proposal for a junior level course in how writing creates knowledge in sciences and in any other discipline. And I worked in the writer for a whole number of years. Okay. The outline of what I'm going to go over today is the difference between science writing and scientific writing, because there is a difference. You're in master's or doctoral programs, so you kind of know what's going on. Most of my work focused on IMRAD formatted work, and that's what I'm going to be talking about here. And or I hope those are mainly what journal articles are written like, how experimental research is written up. It's adaptable. I use this format for my dissertation. The only difference is I have a chapter 2, which is the lit review section. So it's a kind of an adaptable format. It works. So let's look at science writing. And I think this is what a lot of people think about when they think about, oh, I'm going to write like a scientist. Well, science writing is when you take this information that you get from primary literature and you take it and you make it for a general audience. Now, if anybody here is thinking about going into technical communication or technical writing, there's a big need for this type of writer, someone that understands the science and can go, oh, okay, I understand what they're talking about. Like nowadays with the COVID virus, I understand what a SARS virus is. I understand it's been around for a long time. I understand the mechanisms of how the vaccines work. And so I can write for a more general audience. That's what science writing is. And a lot of people think of what you do as science writing, but not really. You're working with scientific writing, and that's the more technical. That's how, in my field, I think of as a discourse community, talks to each other. That's where you get your primary source journal articles. That's where the research gets passed on. That's how scientists, well, basically, they make this new knowledge of talking with each other and engaging in writing studies. We consider it, they're talking, it's a conversation among the scholars. So this is how the conversation goes on in these journal articles, or if you're going to a conference, a poster, and any more posters are digital. Or if you're writing a proposal, I've got this great idea. I want to get funding for my research. These are the types of writing that are scientific writing. And when you get a copy or you download a copy of this PowerPoint, these are hyperlinked. So you can go to my sources or you can go to the definitions because I am a kind of technical geek here. Okay, I want to talk first of all, like I talked about the scientific discourse community, because this kind of frames how I'm going to explain the writing to you. And the whole scientific discourse community, how they use language, how they write, is this big bubble. And those are kind of like the general conventions. You do this, you write in the IMRAD format. A lot of people, you said, well, everything has to be in passive voice, everything has to be in past tense. But, and this is from my research, through my research, I found out you have this, but then you have all these other little communities in here, and you have some that are saying, no, we don't want to do that anymore. That doesn't work for us. We want to do something different. Here are our conventions. And then you have people that go, oh no, we applied physicists. Oh no, we're happy with this style right here. This is how we're going to do it. And why I bring this up is because what I'm going to be talking about are going to be from this big generalities out here. But when you go to write specifically for a journal, for your professor, for the graduate school, you need to find out specifically, very specifically, what they want, because they may have different ideas. I know there was a presentation last week, I believe it was, on APA documentation style. Well, you know, there's 1,500 documentation styles out there. And a lot of journals, I'm sure you know, if you've published at all, okay, yeah, I want to use Harvard style, but I want this and this and this and this. So very contextual on what you need to do. My resources here are Hoffman's Scientific Writing and Communication. If you're looking for a reference book to use to help you write, I would suggest this. It's the book that a class I was creating, it was going to be the textbook for it. It's very good, very easy to understand, explains everything in a way that you can understand it. The person, Hoffman, is a scientist, so it's a good reference book. I also use a lot of Swales, and I'm going to introduce you to one part of it. Swales is a linguist who works with ESL writers and scientific writing. I've done a lot of work on it. And then any other sources that I use, like I said, are hyperlinked in the PowerPoint. And I also have a handout, and it's hyperlinked, and I think it'll be made available on the Grow website. So now, if I'm going too fast, just scream or cut in or tell me to slow down or whatever, and or go back over something if you need me to go back over it. Just some general information on on scientific writing in the and this is IMRAD format. The person use most of the time they want you to use first person now, especially in the introduction and when you're writing results and when you're writing discussion, because you're saying you're describing what you did or what you did in your research. But always check with the journal, professor, graduate school, just to be sure. Again, these are generalities. Voice, they now want you to use active voice. So it's, I did this, I did that. It's active, not the passive, except in methods and materials, especially in methodology. Because here, what's important is what's being the object, what's being done to the object. So it's like the liquid was poured into the beaker. Not I poured liquid into the beaker. Liquid was poured into the beaker. Tense, the verb tense goes kind of back and forth. You can have mixed verb tense in the same paragraphs. The past tense, observations or specific conclusion. Um, Past tense would be in your method section. We did this. This was done. Past tense. Present tense, general rules or established knowledge, like the sun will rise. The sun rises. That's kind of a general rule accepted. We know it's going to happen. And again, they can be mixed. And I'm sorry if you hear puppies in the background. I have 3 dogs. 2 of them are 16-week-old brothers from the same litter. And they hear something outside. I have provided in the slideshow this general chart, and it is a hyperlink. You can click on it, and this is something that you can order. It talks about an abstract. Here's the verb tense you use here. Introduction. Here's where you use verb tenses except for this. I think I found it today. I think it's a great something to just have around to use if you want to. Okay. Now this is the format I'm going to talk about. Introduction, methods, materials, results, and discussion. Again, kind of the basic format of all published research, experimental research. I used it in my dissertation. It was research, it wasn't experimental, but it was a longitudinal study and it worked very good. And so what does the introduction do? The introduction, you want to kind of draw your reader in because you want them to read your research. Now, you're not trying to get a hook like you may have learned years ago in English or writing classes where you say, hey, come read this one. No, you provide context of your research, of your experiment. This is how it fits in that bigger conversation. And there's various methods that can be used to do this. They tell you to go from broad to general, I would say there's a lot of different ways to go from this broad to general. The one that I would teach my students, and I would teach this to freshmen, and it took us about 2 weeks working on just this introduction, is the CARS model. And it's create a research space and use first person, active voice with mixed verb tense. And John Swales, again, he's the linguist, and he's done lots and lots of research in scientific writing. So what's the CARS model? This is a link it goes to a handout on the CARS model. I have also provided that, and I'm sure it will be on the GROW website. And Swales he researched tens of thousands of primary source articles. And he saw almost all of them had these 3 moves in the introduction, and the moves had steps that everyone would use. This handout provides, here's the moves, here's the steps, and here's language that you can use if you want to use the step. And one thing I'm going to talk about right here are the moves. Establishing centrality. It's like the first move that everybody made in their introduction. And you can do it by claiming centrality or you don't have to use all 3 of these. You can use one, making a topic generalization or reviewing previous research. And for my freshmen, because they were freshmen and this was also new to them, we would always use reviewing previous research, because that's why they could put a little tiny 3-sentence lit review in there. So they could say, this author or this researcher found this, and this researcher or this group's research, or these are the ideas. They could do that. And then establishing a niche. Well, remember, from my way of looking at research, it's all a conversation that you're entering. Your experiment, your dissertation, your thesis, you're trying to add something new to this body of knowledge. So you have to say, well, here's this little niche I found. Here's this little hole where I'm going to enter. And it's counterclaiming or indicating a gap or questioning or continuing a tradition. So say yours is indicating a gap. You could say, well, what I said in my dissertation, all these studies have been done on the introduction and the results section, but no one has looked at agency in the methods section. And that's what I want to do. Again, occupying the niche. I'm going to tell them in the very end of it, this is how I'm going to occupy this niche. You can outline a purpose or announce present research. You can announce the findings of your research, or you can indicate your reverse structure. So these are very simple. And it's a very simple way to get this hard piece of the puzzle done, the hard piece of your writing your introduction. And then methods and materials section is the next section of this IMRID. And to be truthful, most people won't read the methodology, your methods and materials, unless they're interested in replicating their work. Truthfully, what are they going to want to do? They're going to want to read your introduction to see where you're going. They're going to want to read your discussion to see what you found. And then if that really interests them, they'll see your results, see how you got the discussion, and then they might read your methods and materials. Passive voice is often preferred, again, because you want to have the object of your research as the most important thing in what you're writing. Past tense, you use it in past tense because it's already happened. Think of it logically, it's already happened. And so, but if you're discussing something that's going to give your methodology validity, it's in present tense. And I can see this is very, a whole lot I'm throwing out here at once. I don't expect everybody to get it at once. It would be great if you have a good research book or reference book that you can go back on and look, and then use the services of the writing center, because you write something and then you review it and you find out what's not quite right and you go back and you rewrite it. That's, as a rhetorician, that's how we write. I mean, that's the writing process. And then I'm going to do the results. Well, the results are, it's your contribution to this discussion. And this is very, very critical, that you need to choose the most precise and descriptive wording. How are you going to clearly and concisely going to explain this to your audience? Again, it's audience specific to how the people you're writing to, what terminology do they use? How do they write it? But it's not fluffy. It's not anything, but here's what we found. You give a chart and then you explain the chart to the reader in your results. And then tense, past tense, except for descriptive studies. And then you got to use present tense. Again, it's going to go back and forth. You may have both tenses in the same paragraph or even the same sentence, which is acceptable. Now, I can tell you this. I can tell you that this is acceptable in that big, broader sphere. Again, you're going to have to ask your advisor, the graduate school, your professor, whoever you're writing to, yes, do you find this acceptable? against audience because they may not. These are the most up to date views of the writing. Um, and I don't want you to think that I'm just letting you down or something here, but I can only tell you what I know and what's acceptable and go from there. Uh, the hardest part of everything is the discussion section of this IMRAD because you are now the expert. How are you going to tell everybody and jump up and down and clap and toot your own horn and say, yes, look, this is what I found. This is the conclusions I've come to about my results. I think it's fantastic. So you write with confidence, authority. You use first person, active voice, unless you're talking about, and then if you're talking, excuse me, if you're talking about your results or something in there, again, it's past tense because it's already happened. Present tense is validity. And here you want your readers to be able to follow everything you do. So you ensure continuity, you ensure that they can follow you. So basic writing, paragraphs have topic sentences. You use transitional phrases in it. You use keywords of your study of what you're talking about. And that's all the generalities I have. And I'm going to escape from this and get back to unsharing my screen if I can figure out so I can see everybody. And then if anybody has questions, I will. Okay, I'll try to figure this out. I don't want to share anymore. How can I? Okay, I'm sorry. I'm going to apologize for everybody right now not knowing how to, because I want to get here. Okay. Yes, stop sharing. Okay, Dr. Johnson, figure out what you're doing. Oh, questions? Okay, I see the presentation handout will be on the website tomorrow. Do you have any questions? Anybody want to put anything in chat? Did I bore you all to death? I'm sorry if I did, but it's not the most fascinating subject in the world, and it's not something that's really cut and dry that I can tell you, yes, you definitely do this.
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I see that you recommended a book I don't really remember the name. I'll have to go back and see. But the publication
Yeah.
date was in 2017. At least you put 2017 beside the book title. So
Yeah.
do writing trends in scientific writing, do they get outdated as they do? Because 2017 was a while ago. So do we need to keep updating our writing standards?
They don't. They may come out with new editions, but they don't change that fast. When I looked at stuff over 60 years, and it was very, very slow moving trend. So no, if you could find the book from 2017, I'm not sure if Ms. Hoffman or Dr. Hoffman has updated it since then, if there's a fourth edition, but this was the current one I have, and I would just go with that.
Okay.
Yeah, if I can add to that, I would say that writing in a journal 50 years ago, 60 years ago was different than today. But a paper that's 10 years old, the writing style will be very similar to a modern present day writing style. So, 50 years ago or 60 years ago, you could write a paper that would be much shorter and get it published in a high impact journal. And it was more direct and to the point of what you're trying to communicate. Now there are papers tend to be longer and be more robust on the literature review and citations, and so have longer citation sections as well, references. Um, but that's just the standard of modern day scientific writing. Anything I think from the year 2000 on is going to be pretty similar in its style for scientific papers.
Yeah, well, coincidentally, that's the thing that happened. The same year the book was published, I wrote my bachelor's thesis, and then that was 2017, and then I was looking at it right now, and I was thinking of expanding it. So I resubmitted the bachelor's thesis in order to get suggestions of areas where it could be expanded. And the overall result that they gave me back was that although the results were sound and they hold true, the writing style is no longer acceptable, which is
Mm.
strange because it got accepted back in 2017, and
Mm.
now it's just 4 years past, and they don't like the writing style. So maybe I just
Did I was going to say, was it submitted to the same type of audience or different audiences? Because
it was not, I wouldn't say it was submitted to the same type of audience. I don't know because my bachelor's thesis was back in India, and while resubmitting it, I resubmitted it over here. So although the back end organization is the same, I think the reviewers who were actually doing the work behind the scenes were maybe from two different countries. I don't know. So which is
and,
why they had such a difference in opinion.
and that could be it. Different audiences are looking for different things. It's kind of like I was saying. There's no. It depends upon again who your audience is. You're talking about the change in writing. What I found is in the newer disciplines like microbiology, DNA research, in the methods section, they want you to put yourself in there. I did this, I did that, because they're fighting more and more for research dollars and acceptance to get tenure and to get published and to get more money. So they're saying, hey, put yourself in there so you can get all these things. Where the older disciplines weren't quite as forward thinking to do that. So it was kind of fascinating, new areas say, yeah, get out there and get all you can. Put yourself in there, toot your horn, say you did that.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So the majority of graduate students in the sciences in College of Science and Engineering are not native English language speakers, and so how can they develop their writing skills so they can be on par with people who English is their first language?
Have the best way to do it is have a native speaker read your work or read your work out loud, because a native speaker will pick up, because you guys know, if you're not a native speaker of English, you know your stuff, you know the science behind it, you know the research, you know this, and you probably know the rules of English grammar better than I do. But what happens is you write and your mind is seeing all the connections. But if you read this out loud, you'll stumble over it. And a native speaker reading something out loud will stumble because it's not making sense to them. And then you can go back and say, oh, well, no, this doesn't make sense. Oh, yes, I didn't put the plural markers on this like in English, and I didn't do this. That's really the best way, is have somebody review your work, because writing's not linear, writing's recursive. You write, somebody reviews it, you go back, you rewrite it, you go back. And for me, I would think that would be one of the best ways to do it, because you're reading your articles, your primary is in English, I'm assuming. So that was my suggestion. And I know you can take advantage of the writing center here and have them just sit down with the consultant and say, don't ask them to edit because they don't edit. We don't edit. We never edit. What we'll do is say, okay, here, this, you're having problems in this area. Here's what you should change. Go through. But you can say, okay, I want to read this for flow. And either they'll have you read it out or they'll read it out. But take advantage of them.
When
But
you
if they say
refer to the
something,
Writing Center, do you mean CASA or do you mean GROW?
I worked with CASA, and I'm sorry, I haven't been on campus in over 2 years. I didn't know that there was a Grow Writing Center. Sorry, there is one? Tell me about it.
This talk is a GROW talk.
Okay. Yeah, but I refer to CASA, and they should have Kirsten Ruggles is the coordinator of it, or I think Miss Balmer, who is one of the heads of CASA itself, used to be the Writing Center director. And if you really need anything or you want something specific done, contact her. If you have something special, you say, these are my students and I want to send them to you, or I want my students to have a workshop there, or my students are going to come to you, but gee, don't tell them to write a fluffy introduction. Have your consultants just look at the flow of their works. They can do it.
And if I could just say something real quick.
Sure.
GROW actually works in conjunction with the Writing Center. So we have some sessions this semester called the Writing Room or the Virtual Writing Room, where students can actually come into GROW or log in online, and we'll have Writing Center consultants there. They won't necessarily have their 30-minute meetings with each student because that's not really what the space is designed for. But what they do is it's really a designated time for the student to sit down and work on thesis, dissertation, any kind of writing assignment that they have. And if they get stuck or they need assistance for 15 or 20 minutes, we can either put you in a physical breakout room or a virtual breakout room with a Writing Center consultant. So we do host workshops like that. And I'll post the link in the chat where you can find those dates for the semester. But the Writing Center is also just a great resource on its own, and they can do 30-minute time slots for students to go in and help with writing as well.
Again, I'm going to say the best way to tell my students to paper and then go back and rework it, have a good reference book, look at it. The one I was talking about, scientific writing and communication, they have checklists on the back that says, look, I'm writing the introduction. Does it do this, 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 this? So, and I wish I could say, okay, these are the hard and fast rules that you follow, and just give you this checklist and you could just check through it. But it's just so much more complicated than that. But I don't know. I was 62 years old when I wrote my dissertation. If I can do it, you guys can do it. Is there anything else I can help anybody with? And I haven't read. Somebody asked if I've read a lot of scientific articles. No, I read a whole lot of method sections. I think I read 450 method sections of scientific articles. Am I a scientist? No, not by any stretch of the means. I do writing studies, but I just happen to study scientific communication.
Does anyone else have any questions for Dr. Johnson? No?
No?
Okay, well, I've posted the writing room link in the chat, so if you want to go take a look at those. Dr. Johnson, thank you so much for your time this evening. I truly appreciate it. And thank you to everyone tuning in. And if you have any questions, you can contact us here at GROW or the College of Graduate Studies, or I'm sure Dr. Johnson directly, and we'd be happy to answer those questions for you.
Yeah, my email is very simple. It's francis.johnson. I'm the only Francis Johnson on campus. So you know how email works. Just shoot me an email. But unfortunately, you can't drop into my office unless you're in Pleasanton, Texas, and then you can come drop in my office.
Awesome.
Well,
Well,
okay.
thank you everyone so much for your time tonight, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your semester.
Goodbye to everyone. I look forward to hearing from you.
Dr. Johnson, thank you so much. I really appreciate you.
Oh, no problem. If you need me, you know how to find me.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Bye bye.
Bye.